Good evening, Koinonia.
Good evening, sir.
In 2019, I decided to go do my master's in the UK. I got into the last stage where I was just supposed to provide a proof of funds, and I noticed my bank account had been restricted. Went to the bank to check what happened, and the law enforcement, showed me a letter saying that the law enforcement asked them to arrest me. They did that, detained me for about 2 nights, and I later got to realize that it was a business dealing I had with someone in 2017 that we could not resolve amicably. And after then, I noticed that the law enforcement agents didn't know where the instructions came from for them to restrict my account. Going back and forth, I decided to go to court. 2019, nothing happened. It was from one adjournment to another. At that same point, my business crumbled. I ran into debt in tens of millions, and in 2020, it was getting so bad. Pressure from the people I was owing were becoming too much. So 2021, January, because the pressure was too much, I decided to call my friend who works in Makurdi, and he asked me to come over at least to reduce the pressure for me. I stayed over in Makurdi with him, and at that point, for the first time, I didn't know what to do with my life anymore. You know, I stayed with him in just a room, and every day I kept asking God, what do I do next? You know, it was from one confusion. Every other thing I tried to do kept on failing and failing and failing. It got to a point I went to Lagos, and I went to the redemption camp, and I stumbled upon Apostle's message dealing with the storms. Then he talked about the wind and the water, the wind being the factors that we cannot see about the storms, and the water being what causes the storm. You know, and the Holy Spirit opened my eyes to, to several factors that were causing, the whole wind area. I did some deliverance by going through the mystery of deliverance, delivered myself like he instructed in the message. And after that, as at that point, my friend was already planning his wedding in Abuja. He got himself an accommodation in Lagos. So I told him to please, I needed to use this place for the deliverance in Abuja. So I came over to Abuja, did the deliverance, and I was supposed to go back and meet him in Makurdi. I came here for the first time, and I was overwhelmed. And when he came over to Abuja and saw the way I was coming over to church, he was like, why don't you just stay over here instead of coming to Makurdi with me? There's really nothing happening here. I didn't want to go because I was like, this is a house that you're preparing for your wife, and I don't want to, cause any inconveniences. He said, no problem, at least just stay until the wedding. I said, okay. He gave me a car to drive to wherever I wanted to go to. And all the while I stayed with him, I noticed this unusual love, and it was so extraordinary because I noticed he provided everything. He didn't want me to spend my money. It was just unusual, nothing I had seen or experienced before. And God opened my eyes to know that he was just using him to show me favor. So fast forward to February, the wedding held, and I kept asking God, I said, God, yes, the issues are still there, and God has spoken to me that I was going to fight my battle, that I should withdraw the court case and just take my hands off everything, that he was going to fight the battle for me. So I said, okay, God, I don't want to go back to Makurdi, and I can't stay with my friend and his wife. It's not possible. I went over to Apostle's message about this grace called favor. And he talked about how on a certain February, he decided to ask God for favor for a whole month. I said, okay, thank God this is February. I'm going to do the same thing. He talked about how Dr. Mike Murdoch opened his eyes and his understanding to the topic of favor more. I went over to YouTube, downloaded all Mike Murdoch's message on favor. I grounded myself in favor, and I sowed the seed of all the money in my accounts. I was just believing him for favor because I knew that's all I needed. Then the wedding held last week, Saturday, and I assisted in the best way I could. Everybody left. It was just me in the house, him and the wife. And I told him I was going back to Makurdi this morning. He first of all suggested that I waited for him so we go back together. I said, no. I just didn't want to be in the house to constitute any inconveniences. Then this morning I woke up, I packed my bags, and I went to meet him to come take me to the park. And he told me to come outside for us to talk, and he said, I can't allow you go back to Makurdi. And before I knew it, before I could say Jack Robinson, he had credited my account with 7 figures for me to get an accommodation, for me to furnish the accommodation, and still do some other projects, finance some other projects. So I just want to say thank you to God and
can we join Brother
to
Brown?
my friend Michael.
Can we join Brother Brown to
God
celebrate the name of the Lord for his favor? He missed out something while the case was going on. The Lord had supplied funds for him to pay back about 70% of the amount he was owing before this favor now came up. Can we join him to celebrate God for all that the Lord has